even though, as we've talked about in the past, the polling cycle is fairly consistent when it comes to the aftermath of mass shootings. The support for gun control and various policies tends to go up, although we've seen support for AR-15 bans or so-called assault weapons bans has actually not followed that trend recently, which is fascinating and something for a whole podcast topic perhaps down the line. But and then a few months later, it tends to revert back to where it was. But I think what you've seen in a lot of polling is that new normal, when support comes back down, is still higher than the old level of support, which is a problem if you're a gun rights advocate, because at some point there may be more of a tipping point. I mean, we saw Congress pass the first new gun restrictions in decades last year, and it's not clear that that's the end of it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the Republican messaging, frankly, has been terrible. Tim Burchett from Tennessee, he was the congressman who said, "There's nothing you can do about it." And then he has backed off of that statement, and now he's, I think, supporting some version of a red flag law. When you talk about this, and I think we're playing into this game where the gun control advocates want it to be, you care more about your rights than you do about children being murdered, right? And so when we make this a rights-based argument, when we say, well, it's all about due process protections, it's all about not infringing on my right to keep and bear arms, gun owners are a minority in this country. We may be right, but that's not an argument that is going to persuade a lot of non-gun owners who are, consuming anti-gun media and are convinced that the only way to address these problems is to ban so-called assault weapons or even repeal the Second Amendment altogether, I guess. I think we have to offer alternatives. I think we have to point out why we object to these things. And it's not because we don't care about kids. It's not because, listen, Stephen, you know this. My son, my oldest son passed away last year. And he died of alcoholism. I'll say it here. He died a week before his 31st birthday. And my wife and I found him dead in his bed. So I've looked at a dead child who I love very much. But I don't support the prohibition of alcohol. I'm not calling for prohibition too, because I know that would be ineffective. That wouldn't save lives. We have 100,000 Americans dying from alcohol abuse every year. And trying to ban booze isn't the answer. Similarly, banning guns isn't the answer when we're trying to stop, the 40,000 Americans every year who are dying from suicide or homicide. That's the wrong approach. And so if we do care about our kids and we're not just interested in using them as political talking points, then I think it's actually gun control advocates who have to be open-minded enough to look beyond gun control as a solution, or as, if not a solution, certainly as something that can reduce these numbers and bring them down.